When I learned about ADHD, I learned about rejection sensitivity disorder. And I was like, oh, I don't have that. Like, I'm good. I will put myself out there, like, no big deal. Which at the time I thought that was true. Later on, I learned more about myself, but I had never identified with that for most of my life. In recent years, I realized I'm a very sensitive person. Also female, so I feel emotions really deeply and very intuitive. And I can put myself out there. I can cold call, I can pitch, it's fine. But I realized a lot of the time I just had this armor up, like a really thick skin that wasn't serving me, but was actually protecting me from being vulnerable and to really show up and being seen in my authentic self. When I started to keynote and start to share, my work on stage, which is really tied to my identity because it's part of my dream. It's really important to me. It is. That was really challenging because all of a sudden the armor came down and I was exposing myself at a deeper level to people.
Welcome to Limitless, the podcast for cycle breakers, change makers, and conscious leaders who are done performing, proving, and pleasing, and are ready to live, lead, and create from deep alignment. I'm your host, Fiona Walsh. Every 2 weeks, I hold space for real soul-expanding conversations with guests who are still in it. They're navigating their biggest fears, shedding old identities, letting go of patterns that no longer serve them, and rising into their limitless potential. Together, we share what it's really like to be human, messy, raw, imperfect, and learning to own every part of ourselves, even the ones we've tried to keep neatly tucked away. We go deep into the work of coming home to yourself, getting out of your head, feeling safe in your body, letting go of old stories, and creating a life that's true to who you really are. Subscribing to Limitless is the best way to make sure you never miss an episode. So hit pause and tap follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Because this isn't about doing more. It's actually about remembering who you are. And that's what makes you limitless. Welcome to Limitless. Today, I'm joined by Gaia Broda. She's a keynote speaker and a self-described ADHD disruptor. Gaia is disrupting the idea that a diagnosis tells you what you're capable of. She works medication-free, goes deep into the subconscious, my favorite place to take people, and has built an entire practice around the question, what happens when you stop trying to fit the label and start understanding yourself instead? Meeting yourself exactly where you are. She also does aerial skills, which is very cool. We talk about it when she's up 20 feet in the air. And that is exactly where she feels the most calm. The interesting thing was that she also talked about how she had a fear of heights for many, many years. So it's really cool to hear the transformation from a fear to now where she feels most grounded and in flow state. In my coaching work, I see so many people who know their dream but can't close the gap between the knowing and the doing. And Gaia speaks to this. I think that she lives in that gap, and this conversation will show you what actually is living there. Gaia, welcome to Limitless. I'm so excited that you're here today.
Thank you for having me, Fiona. It's a pleasure.
Amazing. Well, let's jump straight into your story. Can you take us back to that turning point moment where you realized everything had to change?
This was a story about 5 years ago. You know the stories when they stick in your mind because they're so vivid. You're like, I could go back there in an instant. So let me take you there. I was sitting at my computer, my desk, and I was crying my eyes out. And these were tears of frustration from doing everything I knew to do, but not getting the result. Like tears of anger that why wasn't it working for me and working for everyone else? Tears of hopelessness that I had done everything and it's what else is there to do? Like what is wrong with me in this moment? Because I had set aside 3 hours that afternoon to work on my business. And I was working another job at the time. So I was like, this is 3 hours of uninterrupted time to work on the thing that really excited me, that lit me up. And it was my fitness coaching at the time. And instead of, messaging prospective clients, putting out, posts on Instagram. I was researching why cats jump on your keyboard and stay there for like the entire time you're trying to get work done. Like this was not a one-off. Anytime I sat down to do work, it's like I wasn't doing the work I intended to do. And like one of three things would happen. I would do something completely irrelevant, go down the rabbit hole, researching things that that would not help the bottom line, really. Or I would replan my entire week because the original plan didn't feel like it was the right thing. And I didn't trust it anymore. So I'm like, I have a new strategy I'm going to follow. Where, a different idea would come in and follow that instead of the original idea. Or I would completely just stare at my screen blankly and my brain would go numb. Or sometimes that fourth option where I'm like, I just need another drink. Like I have 4 drinks on my desk, but I need one more drink to add to the table, right? And that was the point. It was like, I don't know what else there is for me to do because I had left corporate a few years prior and I was burning out. Like I was working 2-3 times harder than everyone else there to get the same result. And on the outside looking in, I was this type A, high achieving gal, right, who had it all together. The inside was falling apart. Like I had terrible stomach aches. I had terrible insomnia. I had back pain. And it was this constant burnout that I just couldn't push through. So when I left, I knew my own business was the answer. I could set my own hours, do the work that lit me up, like everything I knew that was meant for me. But I couldn't hold it. Like I couldn't actually make the progress and put things in motion one step at a time. So that moment, just crying my eyes out, like mascara just running down my cheeks. I'm just feeling like, what is wrong with me that I can't do this? I had remembered a conversation with a friend just like a week prior. And she has suggested, like, you should go get checked out for ADHD. I really think you might have it. At the time, I was like, I definitely don't. Like, I would have noticed that in like all the other, years of my life leading up to, I think it was like 32 at the time. Mm. But in that like depth of despair I was sitting in, I was like, okay, I'm going to book the appointment. I did it, got the assessment, and it was 100% clear that I had ADHD. And that was the beginning of everything for me. Major turning point. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. And in that moment, did you have a clear view or a desire of what you wanted your life to look and feel like?
Before I was diagnosed, I knew I was going to run my own business. Like from like when I was a kid, I was hustling on the playground. Like I would make bracelets out of wire that I could get for free, knowing that if my materials were free, I could sell this for $1 and make good money, right? Like I was always hustling. So I knew that was my path. I didn't know that when I fully went into it, that it would be so hard for me. It's like, if this is what I know is true for me and what I love and what I'm excited to do, why can't I make this happen? And it was this disconnect of holding this dream that was really big in my mind. It was like, I'm going to run a company. I'm going to be super successful, super rich, like influential, all these things. But it's like I couldn't get out of the starting gates. Mm-hmm. And there's the big disconnect. So when I was diagnosed, my whole work is now based on ADHD and what I put out to the world. It was this wake-up call that I could start to understand myself and give me permission to operate from my own system, my own way, my own skills, my own energy, versus trying to fit into all these other boxes and labels that I was trying to contort myself to fit into.
Mm-hmm. And so you talked about like sitting at your desk, replanning, going blank when you're looking at your screen. I mean, replanning is a like textbook procrastination tool. What have you learned about these actions you were taking and what was actually going on inside of you that was stopping you from doing what you wanted to do, to bring this big dream you had into reality? What was stopping you? What was getting in the way?
Great question. In the moment, it was, I'm going to say the dopamine hits. Was that true or not? I don't know, but I think that's something that we can understand conceptually. It was like, oh, this is more exciting, shiny thing over here. Oh, this is more exciting. Let's do this. And never fully trusting myself. But I didn't realize till after the fact that I was never betting on myself. Like, I knew my dream. I knew I was meant for this, but I believe that we can have, again, I'm a big dreamer. We can have this great dream. We know that's our destiny. That's our North Star. But along the way, if we don't believe that we can actually hold it and we're not betting on ourselves, that's going to prevent us from, consistently taking the steps to get there. So it took me years to realize that, yes, I had the dream, but I never believed that I could actually do the work to get there. And it wasn't just the work, knowing that I was capable to do it. I could hold it, that I deserved it. I was worthy of it. And when I was, replanning my week and jumping after a new strategy or a new idea, the procrastination, of course, we see that, oh, it's fear. But I think I didn't realize how big the fear was. Because I would have thought, oh, it's like doing a cold outreach. That's fine. I can talk to people. It's not scary. But the fear underneath that was really holding me back was, you can't do this. You can't hold this. You can't actually achieve your dream. And that took many more years to sort of understand and get to the root of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. And what type of modalities have you worked with to get to the root of these kinds of stories and problems and limiting beliefs that you were holding?
Yeah, thanks for asking. That's something I love to talk about. So let me tell you more. So in the work I do, I work with those with ADHD or who resonate with ADHD. And my approach has always been away from the I shouldn't say mainstream advice, but away from like the standard ADHD advice of like scheduling and structure and habits. And I go deeper. It's like, let's get to the root of what's making symptoms worse. So that's what I did for myself. So after I was diagnosed, and I'm sharing this to get to how I've been able to get to the root of my own fears and things that have been blocking me. After I was diagnosed, I went on medication. I was like, this is my only solution. Like, there's no way that I'll be able to do the work that's important to me, also be an adult and get things done in life without medication, because I'm struggling so much right now. So I tried it. And after a week, I was like, absolutely not. This is not for me. I don't like how this makes me feel. I felt like I was really disconnected from myself, from my intuition. So I went off medication and I devoted my life to figuring out how I can manage and really thrive completely medication free and achieve my dreams. So that's the body of the work that I now hold on my podcast and what I work with ADHDers on, not specifically on medication free strategies, but those who are looking for alternatives and looking to get to know themselves at a deeper level. And I found over those years that the biggest thing for me was doing subconscious reprogramming work and really working at the root level of where my beliefs came from. So healing, stressors or little t traumas in my life. It's through, I like to use hypnosis. So a way that I can get into my subconscious mind and start to look at, okay, where did I pull up this belief? Because it's not true anymore. I'm just circling on this pattern over and over and over again. What's the fear? What's actually there? Because somehow I picked this up in my life. And that was the work I devoted my life to for, the last 4 or 5 years. And it has been astronomical in getting me moving forward again in my business and now unlocking new projects in my business, such as keynote speaking and podcasting.
Awesome. And what is a belief or a story that you're up against right now? What are you working through at the moment?
I think this is funny for me because the ones we think we work through seem to come back up again. Like the ones like, I've done this, I'm past this, it's coming right back up. And that is being seen. When I launched my podcast, I was like, ooh, this feels a little edgy. And I had a YouTube channel before this for about 3-4 years. And just seeing what I truly felt about, ADHD, about my journey, about how I've been able to navigate and how I believe is, a replicable methodology for others was really, really edgy. And then I got the direction from God to go speak on stages, like go take your work and now be in real time in front of people on a stage. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is really scary. Yet it was also really exciting. It's something I've always loved to do. And that's where I'm at right now, is battling that of writing my keynote, but I'm second guessing it. I'm like changing it. It's like that procrastination because I'm so scared that what I've created isn't good enough to take on a stage and be seen by people in the moment with it.
Yeah, cool. And so that also goes back to a good enough story, which would
Yeah.
be a pattern that I'm sure you've worked on too. Because everyone I know with neurodiversity has that as a very, very, very strong, deep-seated
Am I
pattern.
enough?
Yeah, well, there was a kid, they were too much or they weren't enough, and it didn't matter which day it was, but it was one or the other. I love that you call yourself an ADHD disruptor, but I'm curious, what are you disrupting?
Oh, I love that you're bringing this up. Okay. So, in the ADHD space, that I have come to learn when I was diagnosed was a few things. One was the commiseration. Like when people were diagnosed, and I would see this on Instagram and TikTok, where I used to have presence on both. It was like this constant venting and complaining and like pitying of like, this is so hard. We will always struggle. I've always struggled in this way. It'll always be a limitation. And it kept me stuck for far too long because I started to identify under this label that, yes, this will hinder me in some way. And I realized it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like things that I had never struggled with in life all of a sudden became harder and harder because I was keeping myself trapped under this label, or in an ADHD box, as I call it. And that was the first one. I was like, this has got to go. I cannot subscribe to this anymore. And I will not put out content that's making anyone feel that ADHD is hard, because that already is going to be a limiting belief. The other thing that I advocate for is owning your management journey. We, especially with ADHD, of how I've come to learn, people in my network, is that we outsource our agency or even our sovereignty to things outside of ourselves. Outsourcing ourselves to a label, but also outsourcing like our cares maybe to the medical system or to someone who is neurotypical, who we think know better, know how to run their life in a more responsible way. So we're giving away our agency versus saying, okay, let me take in all the information and really feel what's true for me. Because even with ADHD, we're all completely unique. So one strategy that's going to work for one person that's neurodivergent may not work for you, or maybe it's going to kind of work for you, but you need to rework it for yourself in this specific season of your life. So I'm taking the conventional like knowledge and wisdom, but then empowering those who resonate with ADHD or have it to really think for yourselves of what feels true for you, to own your own journey and to have agency again in your life.
Yeah, that's really fascinating because I've been through the journey with one of my children, and this is a really important takeaway for parents as well, that kids with ADHD can be put in a box and they don't fit into the system, particularly at school. And the label is not actually that helpful. It's very like the school loves it because they can say, oh, this kid's got da 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 da. And it might not be ADHD. It might be autism. It might be anxiety. It might be, you know what I mean? When we take a label though, and people start to identify with, it's a very like limited view of the world. Whereas there is so much in terms of limitlessness with ADHD. People who are neurodiverse have got so many incredible strengths. And if you can lean on seeing your full potential, you can like, the sky's the limit. Like some of the biggest innovators and creators in the world today and in years gone by had neurodiversity. They were not neurotypical people. And so it's very interesting that you say that people are online talking about the limitations, because that's if you want to stay in a victim mindset, go for gold. Your life will be miserable. But if you can actually flip the switch, I mean, I think it's a gift. Neurodiversity is a gift. If you know how to like close the gap on your weaknesses, your actual upside is through the roof, particularly in terms of like their ability to create and also intuit. Like neurodiverse people have much stronger intuitive capabilities. They're usually mediums. Like anyone who's gifted in that sense we usually have some form of neurodiverse diagnosis as well, or they sort of identify with that world. What do you see in terms of like superpowers with people who have neurodiversity?
My view on this has changed over the years. I used to say that it's a superpower and it's amazing and all the things. And that was a lot of, content that was being put out as well. I now of it as neutral. I did a podcast a while back where I examined the world today and how technology is changing so rapidly. And so we're thinking our kids or ages 0 to 14 where their brain's being developed, but it's being developed in time of like rapid change of technology. So their attention spans are already shorter than ours ever were. So at one point, like, are we saying that neurodiversity is like a minority? Or are we all going to start to become more and more neurodiverse because of how our brains are evolving over time? Like, what is neurodiversity versus neurotypical? And I started to look at neurodiversity and ADHD specifically on a spectrum of, are you really struggling? Like things are really getting in your way? Or you're like, ooh, I kind of resonate with this, which puts me in the classification of neurodiverse, but it's only a few challenges here and there. So I feel like it's such a bigger, like there's more nuance to it than we can really define. And it's starting to blend across neurodiverse, neurotypical, across the spectrum of neurodiverse humans, that I think we're just all unique beings. Whether we want to classify someone as neurodiverse or not, I really see it as a classification. And do we even need that classification? Like, do you need a classification to understand yourself? It's like, maybe I did. I did for that season of my life. Now I don't. I want to know myself as myself and my zones of genius and how my energy works and how, what my personality and characteristics are that I bring to the world when I show up with my gifts. I don't want to look at, oh, because of ADHD, I have a superpower. I want to look at myself as I'm a human being with unique gifts that I'm blessed to bring to the world. And that's what I empower everyone to uncover, versus being like, because of this label, I have this. It's no, you're just a unique, worthy human with amazing gifts that can be shared.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that everyone needs to, if they're interested in understanding themselves at a deeper level, can identify their gaps and also where their gifts are and then work from those two places. A lot of people that I coach do not have an ADHD diagnosis, but they've got kids with ADHD and they're surrounded by people with ADHD. So I tend to agree with you that where the line sits between neurotypical and neurodiverse is it's blurry. What's your relationship with your intuition and self-trust? How has that evolved over time? Because it sounds like it was lacking a few years ago, but where is it at today and where are you at on that journey?
Yeah, it definitely was lacking in my moment of breakdown there.
Yeah.
It is, of course, strengthened. I feel if we're on this journey, like an intentional journey of self-growth, I believe our self-trust will always strengthen over time and maybe dip here and there as we navigate different or more challenging seasons of our life. It has gotten stronger because I've understood myself at a deeper level. And I credit a lot of that to human design. I'm a big fan of human design and how that's helped me understand my zones of genius and my energy and how I make decisions, how I interact with the world and what my, characteristics are that make me uniquely me. And the more I've learned that and trusted that and like, oh, this is true. This is me. These are gifts. I'm able to start to own that more. And the more we trust ourselves, even for one day, it's putting money in the trust bank. We're like, okay, cool. Like I'm building up this bank account from the days that are really challenging, seasons that are really challenging. You're like, I have something to pull from now because I built up so much trust in myself. The other way that I built up a lot of self-trust, I used to coach specifically on for those with ADHD in the fitness world, was on systems of creating something in your life to hold you, not a rigid routine, but a system, with some structure that you can still be flexible within it. And as coaching in fitness, it was, work out whatever days a week, choose your days, but do the workout that feels really fun for you, right? So you're always moving your body, but the flexibility is choosing a different workout. Or it's working out at the same relative time every day. So it's not exactly the same time, but relative to something else in your day. And they say this because it starts to create more trust in yourself. They're like, ooh, this can hold me even during the challenging times, or even during the times my brain doesn't want to think linear in a linear fashion. That's what I want to say. And I can still show up and work out, but maybe I want to do something more creative in my workouts. So when I was building that for myself and with clients, when I've gone through seasons of transition, which is kind of where I'm in right now, I can fall back onto this. I can still fall back onto the systems I've created for myself in fitness, in self-growth, in my journaling practice, in healthy eating, which have always built more self-trust in myself that I can hold myself through challenging times and transition seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you find yourself when you fall into like self-abandonment, which is like the flip side, unfortunately, of self-trust?
Ooh, this has been an interesting season. We'll say the last couple months because it's been a
Mhm.
heavy transition season for me. So I definitely fell into that of the self abandonment of falling into depths of apathy of like, why does this matter? I've done so much work and the fear got so big. It's like, is it worth it anymore? Like I've had such an amazing life, through the ups and downs. I've experienced a lot. It's been amazing. Is it worth it? Is it worth the discomfort of growing and facing these fears to achieve this dream that I've always held, speaking on stages, of sharing my mission, of being influential in the world? And those are the times that, I go to God. It's like really anchoring into my faith of like, okay, I'm here for a reason. I have these gifts for a reason. I'm meant to use these gifts in the world to help the folks around me, help my community. And it's also going back to the practices that do feel really good for me. So that is movement. So my regular exercise routine, which I do every morning, I start my day with movement. It's seeing friends, being social, dancing, love to dance. So it's anchoring really into the things that fill me up and then slowly chipping away at the things that still have a lot of fear surrounding them.
Beautiful. That's awesome. And I think those like daily rituals and routines are like important for everyone, especially if you're in a transition or a wobbly season where it's hard to find your grounding and your footing. So they're awesome tips. So thank you for sharing those.
Yeah.
A common, um, I would say, attribute for people who might, as you say, are nonlinear or dot connectors or neurodiverse, however you want to like call it, is having a much more sensitive response to rejection. And so I'd love for you to share your own experiences with how you've like to be an entrepreneur, you have to grow a thicker skin and you have to be able to deal with rejection. We get rejection all the time. Like, how has that evolved for you? And what have you learned more deeply about yourself? Because rejection feels bigger inside your body than it may compared to like a neurotypical person.
Mm. Thank you for asking this. I'm going to go a few different directions with this. So when I learned about ADHD, I learned about rejection sensitivity disorder. And I was like, oh, I don't have that. Like, I'm good. I will put myself out there, like, no big deal. Which at the time I thought that was true. Later on, I learned more about myself, but I had never identified with that for most of my life. In recent years, I realized I'm a very sensitive person. Also female, so I feel emotions really deeply and very intuitive. And I can put myself out there. I can cold call, I can pitch, it's fine. But I realized a lot of the time I just had this armor up, like a really thick skin that wasn't serving me, but was actually protecting me from being vulnerable and to really show up and being seen in my authentic self. When I started to keynote and start to share, my work on stage, which is really tied to my identity because it's part of my dream. It's really important to me. It is. That was really challenging because all of a sudden the armor came down and I was exposing myself at a deeper level to people. Now, with say rejection sensitivity disorder, I see this in the same way that it's a spectrum. Like some people are going to be more sensitive than others. And I think that can be a gift, but any gift that we have that can really help us can also be toxic if it's too much of that as well. Now, because I never identified with that, it never limited in me in that way because I didn't play into like, I have this issue. It's always going to affect me. It was something that kind of the same thing that I said about ADHD. It's like if you never knew you had ADHD, it probably wouldn't limit you because you're not playing into label. And they may still limit you, but you're not going to also have the conditioning of like something's wrong with you, you have a disorder, or you're going to struggle in this way. So I don't think it ever got in my way in that regard. I think it's now just been a growth period for myself of understanding that, okay, I am a sensitive human, which is great. Like I can feel things at a deeper level. I can be really empathic. I can connect with that and bring that into the art I create through my keynote speeches. Like this is a beautiful thing, but also being aware that to be more authentic on stage, to be more authentic with people, that means I need to expose more of myself. And that's going to feel really challenging, but that's okay. That's where my growth is in this season of my life or in my life overall. So all that to say is I've dropped labels from my life and that has been really freeing. So I can just understand who I am at what is actually true, like who I actually am that's unique for me and true for me, and working with that, trusting that where things feel hard and sticky, that's my growth path for the season, for this lifetime. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting because I know because I coach in people's inner worlds, it's fascinating for when you hear people walk through a response to something and when you hear what's going on in their inner world and they can tell you what happened in their nervous system, that people do respond to things in very different ways. And it might look like you sound like you're masking or you're armored up. So even you might have been just like, duck out of water, everything's fine. But under the water, you're like, and other people I can see them, they'll explain something and they'll be fine in person, but then they go and spiral in private. And it's just interesting I totally agree with you. I don't like labels. I think they're limiting. But I do think when you understand something that is going on inside of you that might be taking you down or like using more energy than it needs to be, like the duck out of water, or if you're ruminating or spiraling in private and it's wasting a lot of time and energy, I think that there's a lot to be learned in terms of like, well, if I want to make a change, what can I do about this so that I have different tools that I can lean on, different responses in place. So I don't get stuck on the weekend worrying about something where I could be out really enjoying myself or connecting with other people or taking my dog for a walk or whatever that might be that lights you up.
Yeah. I love that you brought in the nervous system in that too. And I know nowadays the nervous system is like all over the headlines. Like it's a big hot topic, especially in the coaching space and the self-development space, like as it should be. And this was something that kept me stuck for so long, thinking that my energy and productivity was like a strength that was great, but really was just in a nervous system response, in a fight or flight response, where I had all this energy and it would crash the next day. It's like, oh, well, that's not normal because I was just operating in a sympathetic response to something, which was most of my life as someone with a chronic dysregulated nervous system. And I realized that I can also fall into the fawn and free stages as well, which have been new for me, given most of my life was in fight or flight. And it's just been interesting to navigate. I think the awareness of it is like, wow, this is where I'm at right now, and not fighting it, but just letting it, okay, this is where I'm at. What can I do to hold myself and make myself feel safe and soothe, and trusting that I will move through this in the time that I need.
Can you tell me what you were like as a little girl?
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. Let me think back here. So I was a very active little girl, like just loved to play. We had a trampoline. I was always on it, or like skipping, like skip rope, doing that. Just out and about. I loved to play and create. So I was very imaginative. So creating dream worlds, games, anything I possibly could. And I could just sit in that imagination for hours and hours and hours. And I was also very studious. And I think this what threw me off when I was looking to get ADHD diagnosis, because I did really well in school. And it was because I love to learn. I love to learn how things were made, like why things happen, like what were the operating parts of it. Math and the logic behind it, I found very fascinating. So I still bring all of these parts into, who I am today, of course, and the work I do. I want to know why and break it down and be able to explain that to people in ways that they will understand. I want to incorporate so much creativity and movement and joy in my business, in my life. So yeah, I try to bring little me into every day if I can.
Oh, that's awesome. So what, as an adult, like what do you do to like light yourself up and go and have fun?
Oh my God, so many things. Because this is a focus of mine the last about 2 years after I experienced another bout of burnout. I was like, okay, I can't just hustle and work on my business. I need to have what they say are hobbies. I
Yeah.
need to have a life outside of business. So I do aerial silks. I do circus training, anything that has me in the air and just defying gravity a little bit and being creative and playing in that space. I love to dance. So swing dancing is one of my favorites, but I will do kind of any sort of dancing if there's music.
Yeah.
Um, I still am trying to bring in more math into my life. So I love just learning about math, computing science and logic, and even just logic problems, like those fun ones you do with pen and paper. Yeah. So again, trying to bring all those elements in as hobbies nowadays. So I have more joy that isn't just attached to work and my identity there.
Yeah. When you're doing the aerials and stuff, what do you love about the experience?
Oh, I like how you asked that question. I don't think anyone's really asked me in that way before. I love to be, I don't want to say I love to be up high. I do. And
Mm.
that was a fear I had overcome because I was
Yeah.
afraid of heights, afraid of falling. And now, and I believe when we face some of our greatest fears, it can become our greatest gifts, our greatest joy. That I love to feel like I am flying, that I have no limitations in a way where like height, the more I am exposed to it, the more it feels comforting and to be just in the air. It's this really freeing feeling for me, in a way that, yeah, a different way to be creative,
Mm.
if that makes sense. It's trying to like articulate how it feels is a really interesting process for me.
Yeah, because I've watched people on aerials and so, but I've never done it myself. So I was just wondering what it's like in mind and body when you're like actually in the experience. Cause it looks, I mean, it looks tough as well. Like it's a really physical
It is.
endeavor. It's, it's like watching people pole dance. It's not like, it's not just sexy dance moves. Like they are some of the strongest athletes going around, like pole dancers.
It's for me, it's a feeling of calm and free. Like
Mm,
if I feel stressed in my mind, I just feel very relaxed and very calm when I'm like
mm,
20 feet in the air, which seems wild, but
yeah.
it's something that really fills my cup. And also the challenge of it. I love building strength. I've always loved fitness. So there's that strength challenge that keeps me engaged. Like I will drill things forever and ever and ever. It's that hyper focus of mine. So
Yeah. And it sounds like you have a real sense of presence in that, in the moment when you're doing it, which is a beautiful thing when
yeah,
you've got like an active mind, when you're not doing
well
it.
said.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
used to teach a lot about that in my fitness coaching, where you
Mhm.
find your movement flow. And it's when we talk about flow state, we've probably heard of that in, a work concept,
Yeah.
but your movement flow, it's finding movement that feels so good for you. They're like, I could stay in here for hours and hours and hours. No, my physical energy may die off at some point, but you're just so in it and so present that your mind just goes quiet.
Yeah.
And that's for me how Silks is.
Yeah, I love that. And I've spoken to different people, like who I've coached, and then people on Limitless as well, who I think mindfulness happens when we're in flow state, and it can happen on a mountain bike, it can happen on a long run, it can happen on aerials, it can happen skiing. Like people do it painting. Like it's really interesting to tune into when you have that feeling in your body because it's something that you can tap into and if it's an activity you love doing, it's like a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Like you're getting
grounding.
your fitness in it, you're
Yeah,
getting
and so
movement.
grounding for the nervous system as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, if we fast forward like 15 years, what's your like where's your mission at in 15 years? Like who are you being?
Oh, okay, wow. Just like this season of my life again, it's transition season, and
Yeah.
I was going back to some journal entries and letters that I write to myself from past versions of myself, and it's like this year, it's like I thought I would be, so much further in XYZ, in business, in financials, and all, in the big dreams we hold, or that I held. And it's like, I'm not where I want to be, that I thought I would be. But how I feel is completely different. And I didn't expect how I'd feel in it, which is really great to feel like I know myself at a deeper level, to feel that I'm intentional, that I have success that has come in different ways, to feel a sense of fulfillment and joy, and not just be working all the time, but to really enjoy the pleasures of life. So in 15 years, now that I've learned to take away the egoic dreams more and more, I want to, I guess, dive further into that, to be able to hold the dreams that I know I'm after. And that's been my biggest block, is being able to hold it and sustain it and build it, and not have my nervous system throw in the towel and sabotage me. So it's building an influential space in the ADHD world of when my work is really helping you understand you at a deeper level through, of course, the lens of ADHD. So being influential in that space and being able to hold it, being able to lead in that space, creating more projects that I can lead and hold, and have teams that support and run with them as I head them up. And yeah, I think it's just going deeper into the joy that I've already started to create. There's so many experiences in life I've already accomplished. So I think this is the most rambliest answer ever. So thank you for kind of throwing me off guard here. Being even more mindful, more present. Yeah, that's something I've been coming back to this season, as well as being more mindful, being more grateful, and finding the pleasures in life a little bit more too.
Yeah. What's something you're truly grateful for right now?
Oh, the nature outside. As I look out on the trees, like summer, you just see all the greenery come out, and it's so fulfilling. It's so grounding, and it's so abundant. Like, it just takes me back to the present moment, and how good the earth is, how good we, how simple things can be so good to us, and so settling for us, and such a great reminder. Yeah. So nature.
Love it. It's also a really good regulator, a natural regulator.
Yeah.
So yeah. This season of Limitless is based around a theme of connection, which is also one of my personal values. I would love to hear from you. What does connection mean to Gaia?
This was also a core value of, and still it's core value of me in my being. And I look at it as connection to myself, connection to friends, like close friends, connection to nature, connection to faith, to God, and connection to my community. This past year has been, I put a lot more effort in connecting to my community, of getting to know my local community, not just an online community, but local community, and really been presence there, and contributing there, and supporting my community as much as I can through, going to local chamber events, going to networking events, volunteering where I can, even just connecting people within my community and being of service there. So that is something that, this last year has been a priority for me. And right now the season is connecting back to myself, connecting to God, as I transition into its next version of myself that I'm becoming.
Yeah, beautiful. And for people who are neurodiverse, what do you see as a difference in how they connect than people who might be neurotypical?
I'm going to go back to even the same kind of framework of, we all connect in our own way. And I think that changes over time as well. As we know, as what's been told, that, neurodiverse tend to be more sensitive. That doesn't mean you are, or that can be on a range, a spectrum. So connecting to self may feel easy, but it may not. For most of my life, I was so disconnected from myself. I couldn't feel sensation in my body. I didn't even understand what that was. The idea of meditating for even a minute was like absolutely absurd. I remember the first time I was asked to meditate for 20 minutes, I was like, this is crazy. Like, you must be kidding. There's no way I could sit and not think thoughts for 20 minutes, or like to notice my thoughts for 20 minutes. So I think that's now been my greatest gift, to connect to myself. But for most of my life, it wasn't. It was really, really challenging. So for someone who is neurodiverse, I would say it's like if I was to give advice or maybe even to my past self, is to just be curious about it. Like, what does connection to mean to you right now? And what do you not know about connection yet? And learn that. Because I didn't know about connecting to my body, but if I would have been just curious about it, I think that would have led me in that path a little bit sooner than it did.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. And how did you become aware that you were so disconnected from self?
I had hired a coach. It was the first coach I ever worked with,
Mm.
which was already really edgy for me because it was the very start of my coaching business. I was very stubborn. I was like, I'll figure this out. I can do it. I don't need anyone. That's, my general demeanor. And I hired a coach and we did a lot of more subconscious kind of belief work, somatic work as well, of course, because that's where I learned to connect to my body. And she'd just be like, well, close your eyes. Like, you feel sensation in your body. It's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
feel something in my body. Like, what are you talking about? And I don't understand.
Mm.
And that introduced me that, oh, we can feel things in our body, that there is a whole, body of work called somatic work. So that was about 5 years ago, right around when I was diagnosed, or I think it was right before I was diagnosed with ADHD. And that I feel was the unraveling of a big journey forwards, understanding myself, understanding my brain, understanding my energy, understanding my gifts, understanding my purpose, discovering my faith. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fascinating going through this journey with one of my kids because um, we've been working on a very low interoception skills. So that means that when we did some work with an OT and stuff like this, and this is a lot of people have this, they don't realize it. Like the OT and I and my child would all have our hands in ice cold water, and like to describe the sensation it was really interesting because the words that were being used by my child was so different to how I would have expected them to describe having their hands in ice cold water. But it gave me a really beautiful perspective in how our different minds and nervous systems interpret different senses. And a lot of people who have a very high pain threshold, it's quite often it's more interoception skills, and there's some neurodiversity there as well because of the disconnection between that's going on. So it's very, I just find it so fascinating the differences in perspective that you can explore through life, through yourself or through your children. Yeah, so cool.
Yeah.
What a gift
Thanks
that
for
your
bringing
coach
that up
was able to
too.
like look
Yeah.
at that. Yeah. Yep.
You can just speak on that in the circus world, it's always known that it's a very painful type of sport,
Yeah.
right? It's not comfortable. So a lot of people will self-identify as like neurodiverse or, been diagnosed as neurodiverse. And this high pain tolerance comes up. And I think for myself that it's also been, a life of not being connected to my body. So being like just tapped out somatically, that we need more and more sensation to also feel something. Like we feel so numb because we can't feel that. So it's more sensation. We need more sensation. It's also linked to the dopamine chase, right? And women too, like we want sensation. We love to feel emotions. That's, our feminine nature. So it's like I feel things, but you want more. You want more. And it's just upping the level more and more and more.
Mm.
So for like, say, in aerial silks, I'm doing something, when I used to teach classes as well, teaching someone who's brand new, they're like, this is really painful. And to me, it's like, is it? I don't feel that. And I've come to learn it's like, oh, I can feel that, but I've just chosen to ignore what that signal is for me.
Yeah, I do believe people do feel things differently in their body. I think one of the things, and it might have to do, the silks would be an interesting thing to like work through, but like if you're sensory seeking and you don't realize it because it's subconscious, like you see it in kids, they will bump up into other kids and they're not meaning to, it's just there, or they'll like push themselves into a wall and they do stuff and you look at them and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? But then you realize that they're dysregulated and the pressure on their body, or even if you see a child like on the floor, they're really grounding, but they're censoring input from the floor. And I feel like that if you're supported by silks, there would be I could see my child in that, like it's beautiful the way it can hold you. Do you know what I mean? And the pressure and the
Yeah.
push and the pull and stuff. So I don't know the mechanics behind it, but it feels like that, the sensory seeker, however it feels in your body, it must have some like grounding and calming sort of experience as well, which is super cool.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you need to try it now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. I want to ask you one last question and then I go into rapid fire, guys. So, transformation usually happens in small intentional steps. It's like these little micro movements rather than these huge leaps that lead to long lasting change for individuals.
Mm.
Based on your journey, what's one step or action that the community listening could take to unlock their limitless potential?
Mm. I was fed the lie for so long that, quantum leaps and overnight success is true. And I think it can be true, but underneath it, it's the small steps that your nervous system can handle. It's titrating it. I would say I'm going to speak even to like my past self, which I think is going to speak to a lot of your community here, is trusting that showing up consistently, that doesn't mean to be daily. It could be whatever that looks like for you. Yeah. And creating the system to hold you during challenging times. And I always go back to fitness because that for me is my anchor in life. It's something that will always be tied to my identity, no matter how many identity shifts or up levels I go through in my lifetime. So I will work out or do some sort of movement every single day, whether that's a walk, whether it's dancing, whether it's is going to do aerial silks, whether it's lifting weights. And I know no matter what, that's going to hold me. So if I wake up and I'm tired, well, I'm still going to go for a nice walk or do some stretching. Like that is how I start my day. And because I can rely on that so confidently, no matter the season of change, I can build from that. So if you're also you have a dream, you're going after it, but it feels really scary, find the thing in your life, and maybe it's movement for you as well, that will always be true for you, no matter the season, no matter who you're becoming, and anchor into that so deeply that then you can build from that. You can think of it as even as habit stacking, but it's also titrating your nervous system to be like, cool, we're comfortable here. We're doing something we're familiar with. We're familiar with systems. We're familiar with consistency. Great. Let's add one more thing on. And that one thing being a very tiny step towards your goal.
Yeah, I love that. It's really practical and useful. And I would also just add, it doesn't need to be perfect. So particularly people who have got kids and like first thing in the morning, sometimes you might have a window of 45 minutes, but sometimes you've got a little person with you as well. And so if you've committed that you're going to try and do a meditation or a workout in the morning, try and do it even if it's not perfect, because just the discipline of saying yes to you and doing it anyway, even if you've got a small person at your feet or climbing on your head, like I've tried to meditate, doesn't go so well, but like you're like depositing in your self-trust that I'm showing up for myself and I'm doing it messy and imperfect, but at least I'm trying, is always better than waiting for the perfect moment, because it just often doesn't come.
Yeah. And to even add to that, because that sparked this other thought I had that I've been playing with, is stepping into the identity. So when I say for me, fitness has always been, my bread and butter, it's because I've always identified myself as a fitness person, as someone who enjoys movement. So it's become easy. So if you're like, okay, I'm building a business and it's going to look like this, start to identify yourself as the person who is building that or who's holding that or who already has that. Or if you're someone who's like, I just want to start meditating, well, identify as the person who does meditate on a regular basis. So in the morning, we're like, oh my goodness, kids climbing all over the place. I can't meditate right now. But you're like, wait, I am the person who does do that. Meaning maybe it's going to happen later today. Maybe it's going to happen tomorrow. But I know because I identify as that person, I trust myself that this will always be a part of me.
I love that. That's so powerful. Okay, let's do some rapid fire. What's one lesson the universe or God keeps throwing at you to learn and relearn and relearn?
So many. It's trusting God, trusting myself, and taking the action.
Okay, beautiful. What's a desire that you've only recently let yourself fully own?
Speaking on stages.
What's the most uncharted or chaotic thing you've ever done, and would you do it again?
Chaotic to the outside world, but maybe not chaotic for me would be in a whim packing up my car, moving halfway across the country to do circus training.
Cool. Awesome. When you hear the word limitless, what are 3 words or feelings like evoked in you?
Freedom, potential, and I'm going to say just being in the air because I think of aerial silks.
Yeah, I love that for you. I love that for you. Okay. If you're having like a day that you're struggling, your vibration's a little low, you want to like pick your mood up, what's a song that you can put on that will help lift your vibration?
Oh, there's so many right now. Which one am I going with? I will forever love the song Antibodies, the remix by Snake and LPGOB. I love
Love
it.
it. Amazing. So good. Well, Gaia, thank you so much for coming on Limitless today. I've loved our conversation. You've shared your story, your wisdom with everyone. I know there's so many practical and deep takeaways for everybody. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Fiona. I love what you're doing with this podcast. The theme is beautiful to hear so many different stories and how they're impacting, I know, all of your listeners. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Limitless. If you enjoyed today's episode and love hearing the stories of courageous cycle breakers, I'd be grateful if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Your feedback not only helps others discover the show, but it also amplifies our mission to unlock emotional freedom and true potential. Every review makes a difference in helping more people embrace their limitless life.